As the holidays get closer, we all dream of that perfect, cozy, picture-perfect Christmas, right? Ow. Well, let's be real. Sometimes things go spectacularly wrong, and those moments often become the best stories. Today, we're diving into 40 hilarious Christmas accidents that prove the holidays are anything but predictable. So grab some hot cocoa, get comfy, and let's get into these festive fails. Our first story is about a Christmas tree with a serious attitude problem. One family shared that their tree just refused to stay upright. It fell over once, twice, 3 times. It was like it was actively trying to escape their living room. After what I can only imagine was a lot of frustration and probably some pine needles in places they shouldn't be, they came up with a brilliant, if not slightly desperate, solution. They took their dog's leashes and literally tied the tree to the wall. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Their dog, probably feeling a mix of confusion and betrayal, still managed to knock it over. The tree, even tethered, had one last rebellious act in it. I guess you could say it was a real dog-eat-tree world. That poor family just wanted a nice Christmas tree, and instead, they got a wrestling match in their living room. I wonder if they just left it on the floor after that. Next up, we have a culinary catastrophe that gives a whole new meaning to fire roasted. Picture this. It's Christmas morning, the family is gathering, and the smell of burning is in the air. Someone in the house, and we're not naming names, completely forgot the most crucial step of Christmas dinner, defrosting the turkey. Now, a normal person might panic, order pizza and call it a day. But not this culinary daredevil. They decided to throw the frozen bird into the oven anyway, hoping for a Christmas miracle. Well, they got a miracle, just not the one they wanted. The top of the turkey, still icy on the inside, but getting blasted by heat on the outside, actually caught fire. It became a giant, greasy candle wick, flickering away in the oven. The dinner was completely ruined, a charred monument to poor planning. But hey, on the bright side, at least they knew their smoke alarm was working perfectly. It was probably the loudest thing in the house that day. I bet they had takeout that year, and a story they'll never, ever be allowed to forget. Our third tale takes us to the local mall, where festive cheer took a very physical turn. It's the classic scene. Kids are lined up. Parents are trying to get that one good photo, and Santa is sitting in his big red chair. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a grandma goes full linebacker and tackles Santa Claus. The crowd is stunned. Kids are probably screaming, Reindeer looking on in horror. Why would this sweet-looking grandma attack the jolliest man on earth? Well, it turns out she had put her purse down on the edge of Santa's chair for a moment. When she turned back, she saw him sitting there and, in a moment of pure panic, thought he was making a run for it with her belongings. She didn't hesitate. She went for the takedown. Poor Mall Santa had no idea what hit him. He was just trying to ask a kid what they wanted for Christmas. And suddenly he's on the receiving end of a gridiron-worthy tackle. Santa, 0, Grandma, 1. Her purse was safe, but Santa's dignity probably took a major hit. You have to admire her protective instincts, though. Nobody messes with Grandma's purse. This next one is a little bit tragic, a little bit hilarious, and a whole lot of messy. A young kid, filled with the joy of a snow day, decided to build the perfect snowman. He packed the snow, found a carrot for the nose, some pebbles for the eyes, true winter masterpiece. And where did he decide to build this frosty friend? Right in the middle of the driveway. You can probably see where this is going. Later that day, Dad comes home from work, tired, probably thinking about dinner, and not expecting an ambush. He pulls into the driveway, and crunch, runs right over the snowman. Confused by the bump, he backs up to see what it was. Crunch, he runs it over again. The kid, watching from the window, bursts into tears. His beautiful creation was now just a sad, lumpy pile of snow with a carrot sticking out of it. And here's the kicker. Seeing his kid so upset, the dad started crying too. So now you have a kid crying over his flattened friend, and a dad crying because he made his kid cry. The snowman didn't stand a chance. It was a driveway massacre. Rest in peace, Frosty. Now for number 5. We have a story that could have been a real tragedy, but ended with a literal bang. A classic Christmas dad moment. Getting up on a ladder to hang the outdoor lights. This particular dad was using a staple gun to attach the string of lights to the house, which is pretty standard. What wasn't standard was his decision to do this while the lights were plugged in. He's up on the ladder, staple gun in hand, aiming carefully, and then it happens. He misses the plastic casing and staples directly through the electrical wire. Instead of getting the massive electric shock you'd expect, which is incredibly lucky, the entire string of lights just exploded. It was like a surprise fireworks display right there on his roof. Sparks flew everywhere, bulbs shattered, and the whole neighborhood probably wondered what was going on. He didn't get hurt, but he definitely learned a very valuable lesson about electricity that day. Always, and I mean always, unplug the lights first. It's a Christmas decorating tip that could save you from an unexpected and potentially shocking light show. Now we have a classic tale of holiday decorating gone wrong. Picture this. You've spent hours painstakingly setting up your outdoor display. The lights are twinkling. The inflatable snowman is, well, inflated, and the plastic reindeer are perfectly poised on your roof, ready to guide Santa's sleigh. What could possibly go wrong? Well, for one family, a sudden, powerful gust of wind decided to turn their festive display into a scene from an action movie. One of their plastic reindeer, let's call him Blitzen, took an unexpected flight. It wasn't a graceful takeoff. It was ripped from his rooftop perch and sent hurtling through the air, only to make a dramatic crash landing directly onto the family car's windshield. Crack. The sound of shattered glass filled the air. There, embedded in the spiderweb of cracks, was a plastic reindeer hoof. Imagine having to make that phone call to your insurance company. Hi, yes, I need to report a claim. My windshield was, attacked by a reindeer. I can just hear the silence on the other end of the line, followed by a very confused, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You can't make this stuff up. It's one thing to have a bird hit your car, but a rogue Christmas decoration. It's a new level of holiday mayhem. Hope they had a good sense of humor about it, because that's a story they'll be telling at every Christmas dinner for the rest of their lives. It's the ultimate proof that sometimes the holiday spirit can hit you, ... Literally. Next up, we're heading into the kitchen. It's the heart of the home during the holidays, but also a potential disaster zone. You all have that one holiday food that's the butt of every joke. For many, it's the fruitcake. It's that dense, mysterious brick of candied fruit and nuts that seems to be indestructible. It gets passed around from family to family, year after year, and some people swear the same fruitcakes have been in circulation since the 70s. Well, one family found out just how indestructible this festive loaf truly is. Here's the scene. Grandma's famous fruitcake, a family heirloom of sorts, was sitting proudly on the kitchen counter. Someone, we won't name names, accidentally knocked it off the edge. Now, you'd expect a cake to maybe squish a little, make a mess, but nothing too dramatic. Not this fruitcake. This thing fell with the density of a small planet. It hit the ceramic tile floor with a deafening thud and an even louder crack. The fruitcake was completely unharmed. Not a crumb out of place. The floor tile, however, it had a massive crack running right through it. The fruitcake literally broke the floor. Let that sink in. A cake that can shatter tile. It makes you wonder what it would do to your digestive system. It's like it was forged in the fires of Mount Doom. This incident just confirms everyone's suspicions about fruitcake. It's less of a dessert and more of a construction material, or perhaps a self-defense weapon. Intruder in the house? Honey, get the fruitcake. It's a hilarious reminder that some holiday traditions are tougher than they look, and maybe, just maybe, some are better left on the counter, or used to level uneven furniture. From the kitchen, we move to the living room, where the gift-trapping chaos unfolds. For parents of toddlers, the holidays are a constant game of what have they gotten into now. And wrapping paper, with its crinkly sounds and bright colors, is basically a magnet for tiny, curious hands. One family experienced a few minutes of sheer panic, followed by pure, unadulterated hilarity, thanks to a giant roll of gift wrap. They were in the middle of a wrapping marathon, with paper, bows, and ribbons strewn everywhere. They turned their backs for a moment, and when they looked again, their toddler was gone. Vanished. They called his name. No answer. They checked under the sofa, behind the curtains. In the classic hide-and-seek spots, nothing. 5 minutes of frantic searching went by, their parental anxiety skyrocketing. Where could he have gone? Just as full-blown panic was setting in, a muffled voice came from a corner of the room. A large upright tube of wrapping paper started to wobble. Then, a proud, tiny voice yelled from within, "I am a present." The little guy had managed to climb inside the cardboard tube, wrapping himself up completely. He wasn't lost. He was just getting into the holiday spirit in the most literal way possible. The mix of overwhelming relief and the sheer absurdity of the situation must have been incredible. It's a moment of toddler logic at its finest. Why just wrap the presents when you can become one? It's a Christmas memory that's equal parts scary and adorable. Now, let's step outside again, into the winter wonderland. But as beautiful as a white Christmas is, it can also be surprisingly dangerous. We're not talking about snowball fights. We're talking about nature's Christmas daggers, icicles. They hang so prettily from the eaves, glistening in the winter sun. They look magical, but they are essentially giant, pointy spears of frozen water just waiting for the right moment to drop. One person had a close encounter of the iciest kind that was just a little too close for comfort. They were walking up to their house, minding their own business, probably humming a Christmas carol. Suddenly, they heard a whistling sound, and then a loud thud. They looked down, and just inches from their foot, a massive 3-foot-long icicle was sticking out of the snow like a spear. It had broken off from the gutter right above them and plunged downward, missing them by a hair's breadth. Can you imagine? More step. One slightly different angle, and that story would have a very different and much less funny ending. It was a true Christmas miracle of the highest order. The universe, or maybe Santa, decided it just wasn't their time to be shish-kebabbed by a piece of frozen gutter water. You'd probably spend the rest of the day feeling incredibly lucky, and also maybe looking up a lot more often. It's a stark reminder to always be aware of your surroundings, even during the most magical time of year. And maybe it's a good idea to knock those giant icicles down with a broom handle before they decide to launch a surprise attack. Our 10th story combines two holiday staples, cozy candles and festive decorations. It's a recipe for warmth and ambience, but as one family discovered, it can also be a recipe for disaster. The tradition of hanging stockings by the chimney with care is a cherished one. But with care is the key phrase here. This family had their stockings hanging from the mantel. Nearby, a beautiful, scented Christmas candle was flickering away, filling the room with the smell of cinnamon and pine. A little too nearby, as it turned out. One of the stockings, probably filled with little flammable goodies, got just close enough to the flame. It started to smolder, then poof. It caught fire. Before anyone could even react, the smoke alarm started blaring its ear-splitting siren, sending the entire family into a panic. They managed to put the fire out quickly, but the damage was done. The stocking was a charred, blackened mess. The holiday piece was shattered, replaced by the smell of burnt fabric and the lingering ring of the alarm. But here's the best part. Most people would throw the burnt stocking away and call it a lesson learned. Not this family. They decided that this chaotic event was now part of their history. So, they kept the burnt stocking. And every year since, they hang it right back up on the mantel for tradition. It serves as a hilarious, slightly singed reminder of the time they almost burned the house down with a candle. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes the best traditions are the ones born from complete and utter accidents. It's not about perfection. It's about the memories you make, even the smoky ones. Our 11th story is a winter classic I like to call the snow shovel knockout. Imagine this. It's a beautiful, snowy Christmas morning. The world is quiet and covered in a fresh white blanket. A guy, let's call him Dave, decides to be a good citizen and clear his walkway. He grabs his trusty snow shovel and gets to work. But the snow is that heavy, wet kind, and the shovel gets completely stuck in a massive snowbank. Dave, being a man of action, decides brute force is the answer, plants his feet, grips the handle, and yanks with all his might. Once, twice. Nothing. On the third pull, he puts his whole body into it. But the shovel, with a sudden pop, frees itself from the snow's icy grip. But instead of landing triumphantly in his hands, the handle swings back like a trebuchet and smacks him square in the forehead. Lights out. The next thing Dave knows, he's waking up on his back in the snow, looking up at a circle of his neighbors. They're all standing over him, holding steaming mugs of hot cocoa. Said it felt less like a rescue and more like he accidentally stumbled into some kind of weird suburban winter solstice ritual. I guess they thought a hot drink was the best first aid for a concussion. Welcome to the neighborhood, Dave. Next up, we have a tale that will be familiar to any parent, the Elf on the Shelf Stactical Launch. for those who don't know. The elf on the shelf is a little toy scout that parents move around the house every night to watch the kids for Santa. It's supposed to be fun and magical, but for one parent, it became an exercise in accidental ballistics. This dad wanted to find a really creative hiding spot. He thought, the ceiling fan. The kids will never think to look up there, so late at night he carefully balances the little elf on one of the fan blades, proud of his cleverness. The next morning he walks into the living room, ready to see his kids' delighted faces. But he forgets one crucial detail. It's a bit stuffy in the room, so, out of habit, he flips the light switch, which also happens to be the switch for the ceiling fan. The fan spools up to maximum speed, and the poor elf, no longer perched gracefully, is launched across the room like a tiny, festive missile. It ricocheted off a wall, took out a picture frame, and landed in the dog's water bowl. The kids walked in to find their magical elf face down in a puddle, and Dad trying to explain why Santa's little helper had just attempted a halo jump into the kitchen. I guess that elf reported back that the house was, in fact, a danger zone. Our next story involves live animals, which is always a recipe for unpredictability. Let's call this one the Reindeer Poop Slip. A local town square had a big Christmas display, complete with Santa's sleigh and, to everyone's excitement, real, live reindeer. Families were gathered around, taking pictures, soaking in the festive atmosphere. The reindeer were doing what reindeer do, looking majestic, chewing cud, and occasionally, nature called. One of the reindeer left a little present right on the cold, hard concrete. Nobody paid it much mind. A few minutes later, a woman in stylish but not-so-practical boots was walking past, admiring the decorations, completely unaware of the hazard on the ground. Her foot made direct contact with the fresh reindeer dropping. You've all seen cartoons where a character slips on a banana peel, right? She said it was exactly like that. Both feet went straight up into the air, and she landed flat on her back with a thud that echoed through the square. For a moment, everyone just stared. Then, a collective gasp. A couple of people rushed to help her up as she tried to maintain some dignity. Despite now being covered in what can only be described as authentic Christmas residue, she was fine, physically, but her pride was definitely bruised. It's not every day you get taken out by a reindeer in a way that doesn't involve a sleigh. Okay, this next one is a cautionary tale about science and festive beverages. The title, The Hot Chocolate Explosion. Someone was getting ready for a chilly day of Christmas shopping and wanted to take some hot cocoa along. They made a big batch and poured it into a sleek metal, insulated thermos. They sealed the lid tight to keep it warm. But then they thought, you know what? It could be a little hotter. And that's when they made a catastrophic mistake. They put the entire sealed metal thermos, into the microwave. For anyone who has ever been near a science class, you know that putting metal in a microwave is a bad idea. Putting a sealed container in a microwave is also a bad idea. Doing both at the same time is basically creating a small, delicious bomb. After about a minute, the entire house shook. The family ran into the kitchen to find a scene of utter devastation. The microwave door had been blown clean off its hinges. Brown liquid was everywhere. It was dripping from the ceiling, running down the cabinets, and splattered across the walls. The kitchen looked like a crime scene from Willy Wonka's factory. It took them days to clean up, and they were finding sticky brown spots in weird places for months. The moral of the story? Microwaves and metal thermoses are not friends, not even during Christmas. We now have a story that combines holiday feasts with property damage. I present to you the Christmas ham launch. A family was gathered for Christmas dinner, and the centerpiece was a magnificent, honey-glazed ham. The only problem? They'd misjudged the thawing time. The ham was still mostly frozen solid, but they were hungry, and Dad was determined. He grabbed the biggest, sharpest carving knife he owned and approached the ham like a lumberjack approaches a mighty oak. He placed the tip of the knife on the icy surface and pushed down with all his weight. The knife, having no interest in penetrating a block of frozen pork, slipped. The force of his push, combined with the rounded, icy surface of the ham, created a launch pad. The entire 10-pound ham shot sideways off the cutting board, sailed through the air in a beautiful greasy arc, and crashed directly through the dining room window. Glass shattered everywhere. A cold winter breeze filled the room. The family sat in stunned silence, staring at the ham-sized hole in their window and the prized main course now lying in a snow-covered bush outside. After a beat, someone's grandpa just said, "Well, I guess we're ordering pizza." It was a Christmas dinner they would never, ever forget. Our next story is a classic tale of cat versus Christmas tree, a battle as old as time. Picture this: a beautifully decorated tree, sparkling with lights, covered in sentimental ornaments collected over years. It's the centerpiece of the living room, a beacon of holiday cheer. Now, enter the villain of our story, a mischievous cat with eyes full of chaos and a complete disregard for festive decor. This wasn't the cat's first rodeo. It had been eyeing the tree for days, plotting its ascent. Finally, the moment came. With a leap of faith, the cat launched itself into the branches, shimmying its way up like a fluffy little mountaineer, Ornament swinging wildly in its wake. The owner, hearing the telltale jingle of impending disaster, ran into the room to find the cat tangled near the top, looking rather pleased with itself. Thinking they could be a hero, the owner decided to gently, or maybe not so gently, pull the cat out from the branches. But this cat had other plans. It clung to the tree for dear life, and as the owner pulled, the tree's center of gravity began to shift. It was like a slow-motion scene from an action movie. The tree swayed, it groaned, and then, timber, the entire thing came crashing down right on top of the owner. The aftermath. A living room that looked like a pine-scented war zone, a sprained wrist for our human hero, and one very smug cat who, to this day, probably still feels absolutely no remorse. It just sat there, grooming itself amidst the wreckage as if to say, "My work here is done." It's a powerful reminder that in the house, the cat always wins, especially at Christmas. Next up, we have a story that I'm calling Caroling Gone Wrong. It's a tale of harmony, or at least attempted harmony, and the unforgiving nature of winter weather. A cheerful group of carolers, bundled up in scarves and hats, decided to spread some holiday cheer through their neighborhood. They were armed with songbooks and a whole lot of enthusiasm, even if their singing wasn't exactly pitch perfect. They approached one particular house, ready to launch into a rousing rendition of Jingle Bells. The porch light was on, creating a welcoming glow. But it also concealed a hidden danger. A treacherous, invisible sheet of black ice coating the entire porch. Full of festive spirit, the group stepped up onto the porch all at once in perfect formation. And that's when gravity decided to choreograph a new routine for them. In a moment of spectacular, synchronized failure, the entire group wiped out. Feet went flying, bodies went down, and songbooks scattered across the frozen ground. An eyewitness said the sound of the collective thud, followed by a chorus of groans, was actually more in tune than their singing had been. Imagine being the person inside the house, peering out the window to see a pile of flailing carolers on your doorstep. After a moment of shock, everyone burst into laughter. Thankfully, the only thing that was seriously bruised was their pride. They decided to call it a night, leaving behind a legacy of the most memorable and silent, caroling performance that neighborhood had ever seen. Our next story involves a grandpa, a Santa costume, and a very flammable beard. Every Christmas Eve, this grandpa had a beloved tradition of dressing up as Santa Claus to surprise the grandkids. He had the whole outfit, the big red suit, the boots, the hat, and of course, the big fluffy white synthetic beard. The kids loved it, and he loved playing the part. This particular year, after handing out the presents and delighting the children, Grandpa Santa decided to take a little break. He sat down in his favorite armchair, the kids still buzzing with excitement around him. Habit took over, and he reached into his pocket for his old, familiar pipe. He filled it, brought it to his lips, and struck a match. Now, in his mind, he was just Grandpa, relaxing after a job well done. He completely forgot about the highly combustible accessory attached to his face. The moment the flame got close to the beard, poof, the fake beard went up in a sudden, dramatic puff of smoke and flame. It was gone in an instant. The kids gasped, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and awe. For a terrifying second, they thought Santa Claus had just spontaneously combusted. Grandpa, startled but thankfully unharmed, quickly patted out the smoldering remains. The smell of burnt plastic filled the air, and after a moment of stunned silence, the entire family erupted into laughter. From that day on, Grandpa's Santa costume came with a strict, no smoking policy. It became the legendary story of the year. Santa almost lost his face. This next accident is a chilly one, a true testament to the brutal power of a winter freeze. It's called the frozen door trap. A person was heading out on a bitterly cold morning. We're talking the kind of cold where the air hurts your face. They went to get into their car, pulled the handle, and swung the door open. But instead of the door swinging freely, it moved with a stiff, grinding sound, and then just stopped. It was frozen solid in the wide-open position. It wouldn't budge, it wouldn't close, and it wouldn't open any further. It was just stuck, pointing out into the frigid air like a defiant wing. So now, this person is standing in the freezing cold, holding onto a car door that has decided to become a modern ice sculpture. They couldn't just let go, because the door was sticking out into the street. They tried pushing it, pulling it, even giving it a gentle, encouraging talk. Nothing worked. Cars started to drive by, the drivers giving them the most confused looks. Imagine seeing someone just standing there, holding their car door open for no apparent reason in the middle of a deep freeze. For 20 long, cold minutes, they were trapped, a prisoner to their own car door. Finally, either through sheer persistence or because the car's interior heat finally started to work its magic on the hinge, the ice gave way and the door grudgingly closed. I'm sure they've never been so happy to get inside their car. It just goes to show sometimes winter doesn't just trap you in your house. It can trap you outside your car, too. Now for our 20th story is a cautionary tale about the weaponization of holiday treats. It features a young kid, a surplus of candy canes, and a very bad idea. This kid, let's call him Timmy, had a wild imagination. After watching one too many action movies, he saw potential in everything. And that year, the pointy ends of candy canes looked suspiciously like swords. He didn't just have one, he had a whole arsenal. His parents had bought a giant box, and he had been sharpening the tips of 2 of them by licking them to a fine, sugary point. In his mind, he was a swashbuckling pirate or a noble knight. In reality, he was a kid running around with sticky, sharp sugar sticks. He began practicing his sword-fighting moves in the living room, parrying and thrusting at imaginary foes. His parents told him to be careful, but be careful is just background noise to a kid on a mission. During one particularly enthusiastic lunge, his coordination failed him. Instead of striking down his invisible enemy, he managed to poke himself directly in the nose with his sharpened candy cane sword. There was a yelp, and then tears, and a little bit of blood. It wasn't a serious injury, more of a candy cane-induced nosebleed. But it was certainly a dramatic end to his sword-fighting career. The incident became known as the Bloody Candy Cane Nose Affair. It was the perfect, slightly painful lesson that some things, especially holiday candy, are better for eating than for dueling. Here we now have a story that combines modern technology with old-school tradition in the worst way possible. Meet Mark, a tech enthusiast who thought he'd revolutionize tree decorating. His brilliant idea? Use his brand-new drone to hang ornaments on the highest branches of his towering Christmas tree. He envisioned it as a graceful, futuristic ballet of machine and pine. He carefully attached a beautiful shiny red bauble to the drone's landing gear, fired it up, and piloted it towards the treetop. For a moment, it was magical. The drone hovered perfectly. But then, something went wrong. A sudden gust of air from the heating vent, or maybe just a glitch in the matrix, caused the drone to lurch. The ornament swung wildly, the drone overcompensated, and suddenly, it wasn't a decorator, it was a hornet. It started dive-bombing the tree. Propellers whirry like an angry insect. It zigged, it zagged, and with each pass, it sheared off pine needles and sent other ornaments flying like shrapnel. The family just stood there, mouths open, as their beautiful tree was systematically assaulted by a rogue decorating robot. The grand finale was the drone getting its propellers tangled in a string of lights, shorting them out and then plummeting into the branches where it hung, defeated, like the world's ugliest, most expensive ornament. Mark's futuristic vision ended with a tree that looked like it had lost a fight with a lawnmower and a drone that needed serious therapy. The lesson here? Sometimes, a good old-fashioned stepladder is the most advanced tech you need. Next, we have a classic case of holiday hustle gone horribly wrong. This story comes from a viewer named Sarah, who was in the middle of a frantic, last-minute gift-trapping marathon on Christmas Eve. The floor was a sea of wrapping paper, tape, and ribbons. On one side was a pile of gifts for her family. On the other, a stray Amazon box that had been delivered to her house by mistake, addressed to her next-door neighbor. In her wrapping-induced haze, Sarah didn't notice she'd grabbed the wrong box. She expertly wrapped the neighbor's package in festive reindeer paper, complete with a big, loopy bow, and proudly placed it under her tree, dressed to her 7-year-old nephew, Timmy. She then took the actual gift for Timmy, a brand-new video game, set it by her front door to give to the neighbor the next day. You can see where this is going. Christmas morning arrives. Little Timmy, buzzing with excitement, spots the big, beautifully wrapped present with his name on it. He tears into it with the force of a tiny hurricane, expecting the latest superhero action figure or a new Lego set. The paper flies, the box opens, and he pulls out a brand new razor-sharp lawnmower blade. The room fell silent. Timmy just stared at it, utterly bewildered. His parents were speechless. Meanwhile, next door, the neighbor's husband, Gary, was equally confused. Unwrapping his gift from his wife to find a copy of Super Mario Galaxy, Sarah said the awkward gift exchange later that day was the most embarrassing moment of her life. But hey, at least Gary got a great game out of it. And Timmy learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of automated online ordering. Our next story is a cautionary tale for anyone trying to capture that perfect, picturesque Christmas card photo. A family we'll call the Hendersons had a brilliant idea. Their backyard pond had frozen over, creating a stunning, glassy surface that reflected the snowy trees like a mirror. It was the perfect backdrop for their family portrait. They all got dressed up in their finest holiday sweaters and matching hats, grabbed the family golden retriever, and carefully ventured out onto the ice. The dad, a self-proclaimed photography enthusiast, set up his expensive camera on a tripod at the edge of the pond. Everyone gathered in the center, smiling, holding hands, with the dog sitting patiently at their feet. They posed, saying cheese. For the self-timer, click. The first photo was perfect. Feeling confident, they decided to try another pose, this time a more dynamic, fun one. The kids started to do a little jump. That's when they heard it. A deep, ominous crack that echoed across the yard. In slow motion, the ice beneath them gave way. It wasn't a dramatic plunge, but more of a gradual, slushy sinking. One by one, they all went down, landing in 2 feet of frigid, muddy water. The kids shrieked, the dog started paddling frantically, and the parents just sighed in defeat. Their beautiful Christmas outfits were soaked and ruined. The dad, standing safely on the shore, had managed to capture the exact moment the ice broke. The photo shows 4 faces frozen not by the cold, but by pure, unadulterated panic. They didn't get their perfect Christmas card photo, but they did get a legendary story and a picture that gets more laughs than any posed portrait ever could. This next one involves festive lights, a ladder, and a spectacular failure of gravity. Let's call our protagonist Dave. Every year, Dave takes on the solemn duty of decking out his house with an obscene amount of Christmas lights. This year, he was going for the grand prize in the neighborhood decorating contest. He was on the final stretch, hanging the last string of icicle lights along the gutters. He was perched precariously at the very top of a wobbly aluminum ladder, stretching just a little ... to ... far, to clip the last light in place. As he leaned, the base of the ladder slipped on a patch of unseen ice. For a split second, Dave was suspended in midair, like a cartoon character who just ran off a cliff. His survival instincts kicked in, and he did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed the nearest thing to him, which happened to be the string of Christmas lights he had just so carefully hung. This was a bad move. His weight was too much for the little plastic clips. One by one, they popped off the gutter in a rapid-fire sequence. Dave came crashing down, but he didn't come down alone. He brought the entire house-length string of lights with him, creating a massive, tangled avalanche of wires and bulbs. He landed in a heap in the snow, completely ensnared in a glowing, blinking net of festive cheer. His wife ran outside to find him looking like a freshly caught fish, wrapped in a net of lights with the star from the roof display blinking on and off right on top of his head. He didn't win the decorating contest, but he definitely won the award for most dramatic dismount. Now we have a story that's a true Christmas miracle, disguised as a near disaster. 2 brothers, aged 9 and 11, decided to build the most epic sledding ramp the world had ever seen. They spent an entire afternoon piling up snow at the top of their steep driveway, packing it down. and even pouring water on it to create a slick, icy launch pad. Their engineering was flawless, maybe a little too flawless. They had perfectly calculated the angle for maximum speed and airtime. What they hadn't calculated was the trajectory. Their dad came outside to see the inaugural run. The younger brother got on the sled. The older brother gave a mighty push, and he shot down the ramp like a rocket. He got amazing air soaring through the winter sky. It was glorious. It was majestic. ... And he was heading directly for the street. The ramp they built launched the sled perfectly over the snowbank at the bottom of the driveway and into the road. The dad's heart stopped. He screamed. But by some divine intervention, some act of pure holiday magic, the street was completely empty. Not a single car was coming in either direction. The sled landed smoothly on the pavement, skidded to a harmless stop on the other side of the road. The boy hopped off, yelling, "That was awesome! Let's do it again!" The dad, after his heart restarted, calmly walked over, congratulated them on their incredible ramp construction, and then spent the next hour demolishing it with a shovel. It was a close call, but it ended with everyone safe and a lesson learned. Sometimes the best Christmas gift is a quiet, empty street. We move on to a story that gives a whole new meaning to chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Picture this: a cozy kitchen. The air filled with the scent of freshly baked sugar cookies. A woman, let's call her Carol, is leaning over the table, trying to get a good whiff of her baking masterpiece. In her moment of pure bliss, she forgets about the beautifully arranged centerpiece right next to the cookie tray, a row of festive scented candles. She leans in, takes a deep breath, and suddenly smells something else burning. Yep, you guessed it. She leaned just a little too close, and one of the candle flames reached up and singed off half her bangs. She went from having a stylish fringe to a very, very unintentional microbang on one side. The family said she spent the rest of Christmas Day wearing a Santa hat pulled down low over her forehead. Wanna rig? It was either that or explain her new, very asymmetrical haircut to every guest. Fiery start to our list for sure. Next on our list is a tragedy of architectural proportions. A family spent an entire afternoon meticulously building the gingerbread house of their dreams. We're talking gumdrop shingles, icing icicles, and a perfectly manicured candy cane fence. It was a work of art, ready for its close-up. They gathered everyone around the table, phones out, ready to capture this magnificent creation for social media. Just as they all yelled cheese, small tremor, maybe from someone bumping the table, caused a catastrophic structural failure. The gingerbread roof slid sideways, then collapsed in on itself, taking the walls down with it. The entire house pancaked onto the table in a pile of crumbs and broken candy. After a moment of stunned silence, the dad, trying to save the moment, declared, "It's not ruined, it's abstract. It's a deconstructed postmodern gingerbread house." They all burst out laughing, took a picture of the delicious rubble, and captioned it, "Our gingerbread house had an existential crisis." Who needs a perfect house when you can have modern art, right? Our next story involves a classic Christmas struggle: the oversized tree. Family found what they thought was the perfect Christmas tree. It was full, it was fragrant, it was massive. They managed to drag it through the front door with considerable effort, knocking over a lamp in the process. They finally wrestled it into the living room, only to realize it was way too tall for their ceiling. Undeterred, they thought, "We'll just trim the top a bit," as they tried to stand it up to measure. The sheer weight and size of the tree worked against them. It started to lean, and then it timbered backward, directly into the fireplace. But it didn't just fall, it got wedged. The top half of the tree was literally stuck inside the chimney, with the bottom half sticking out into the room at a bizarre angle. It looked like Santa had tried to deliver a tree instead of presents and got it stuck. They couldn't pull it out, and they couldn't push it up. They spent the next hour trying to saw the tree in half, while it was still lodged in the fireplace. Christmas was celebrated with what they affectionately called their chimney tree hybrid. This next one is a PSA for all you aspiring chefs out there. The family decided to deep fry their Thanksgiving turkey for Christmas dinner, inspired by some videos they'd seen online. They set up the fryer in the backyard, heated up a giant vat of oil, and got ready for the main event. Here's where it went wrong. The turkey was still partially frozen. For anyone who doesn't know, dropping ice or water into hot oil is a recipe for disaster. The second the frozen bird hit the scorching oil, it wasn't a gentle sizzle. It was a volcanic eruption. A massive geyser of hot grease shot into the air, creating a terrifying yet admittedly spectacular fireball. The whole thing was caught on camera because, of course, someone was filming. Luckily, everyone was a safe distance away, and no one got hurt, but the turkey was toast literally. The lawn had a new giant black spot, and the side of the house was coated in a fine layer of grease. The silver lining. The video of their turkey volcano went viral. It got over 4 million views online. They might not have had a turkey for dinner, but they did get 15 minutes of internet fame. A good reminder to always thaw your turkey completely. And now for story 30 is for all the pet owners out there. A couple had spent weeks carefully selecting and wrapping presents for their entire family. They arranged them beautifully under the tree, a colorful mountain of holiday cheer just waiting for Christmas morning, or so they thought. They woke up a few days before Christmas to what looked like a festive crime scene. Their 2 golden retrievers had decided that waiting was for humans. Sometime during the night, they had systematically and joyfully unwrapped every single present under the tree. There was shredded wrapping paper everywhere, bows chewed to bits, and gifts scattered all over the living room floor. The dogs were sitting proudly in the middle of the chaos, tails wagging as if to say, "You're welcome." Instead of getting mad, the owners found it so ridiculous that they started laughing. They took out their phones and documented the crime scene, posting photos of the culprits with signs that said, "I regret nothing," and "The cat framed me." It became a running joke in their family, and now all presents are kept in a locked room until the very last minute. We now have a classic case of good intentions meeting modern technology. Picture this. A couple of very excited kids have just finished writing their heartfelt letters to Santa Claus. They've listed their wishes, promised they've been good, and sealed the envelopes with care. To make absolutely sure their letters reached the North Pole Express mail, they decided on the most direct route they could think of: the chimney. It's a classic move, seen in countless Christmas movies. So, with their parents watching, they proudly dropped their precious letters down the fireplace flue. A beautiful, heartwarming moment, right? Well, there was one tiny detail they overlooked. Their house had a gas-only fireplace. The moment the letters hit the bottom, they were instantly incinerated by the pilot light. Poof! Gone in a puff of smoke and Christmas dreams. The kids just stared, completely stunned, as their wishes turned to ash. I guess Santa's getting his list via smoke signals this year. It's a good lesson. Always check your chimney's delivery specifications before mailing important documents. Next up, we have a scene straight out of a comedy movie, a moment of unintentional, perfectly synchronized physical comedy. A couple was heading home after a long day of Christmas shopping. Their arms were loaded with bags and beautifully wrapped presents piled so high they could barely see over them. They were carefully making their way across a frosty, slippery parking lot. You can probably see where this is going. One of them hit a patch of black ice, and their feet went flying. But here's the kicker. At the exact same moment, the other person also slipped on the very same patch of ice. It wasn't just a random fall. It was like they were a professional figure skating duo, performing a perfectly timed move. Arms flailing, gifts flying through the air in a colorful explosion. And then to simultaneous thuds as they landed on the cold, hard ground. After a moment of stunned silence, surrounded by scattered presents, they just burst out laughing. It was a flawless 10 out of 10 synchronized slip. The only thing missing was the Olympic judges holding up scorecards. Now for a story that combines festive decorating with a shocking twist. Literally, someone decided to deck their halls with some vintage Christmas lights. These weren't your modern safe LED lights. Well, these were the old school kind, probably passed down through generations, with frayed cords and a certain rustic charm. They wrapped a beautiful garland around their staircase railing and intertwined it with these nostalgic lights. It looked fantastic. But every single time someone touched the metal garland to go up or down the stairs, they got a zapping electric shock. It wasn't a huge, dangerous jolt, just a surprising little buzz that made you jump. Did they take the dangerous lights down? Of course not. It was Christmas. Instead, it became a running joke for the entire holiday season. "Don't touch the festive shock wire," they'd yell. Guests had to learn to navigate the stairs with the skill of someone playing that old board game, Operation. It turned a simple trip to the bathroom into a high-stakes game of courage and agility. Who needs an electric fence for security when your Christmas decorations do the job for you? This next one is a cautionary tale about man versus machine, specifically man versus snowblower. We all know that wet, heavy snow is the mortal enemy of any snowblower. It clogs up the chute and brings the whole operation to a grinding halt. A man was facing this exact problem. Frustrated, he turned the machine off, but instead of using a proper tool to clear the blockage, he decided to use his own hand. Now he wasn't completely reckless. He was wearing a very thick, heavy-duty pair of winter gloves. He reached into the chute and started pulling out the packed snow. He got it cleared, but as he pulled his hand back out, he realized the auger blade had snagged his glove. He tugged and the glove came free, but it was completely shredded. His hand was totally fine, not a single scratch on it, but his favorite winter glove looked like it had been through a paper shredder. The good news? He didn't lose any fingers. The bad news? He had to go buy a new pair of gloves. It was a stark reminder that even when you think you're being careful, it's probably best to just let the snow melt. Now for number 35. We have the great inflatable Santa escape of Christmas Eve. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, one family had the piece de resistance of lawn decorations, a massive 12-foot-tall inflatable Santa Claus. It was jolly, it was festive, and it was tied down. Or so they thought. That night, a huge gust of wind came roaring through the neighborhood. It was so strong that it ripped Santa right from his tethers. But he didn't just deflate or fall over. The wind caught him just right, and this giant waving Santa started bouncing and rolling down the street, still fully inflated, like he was making a break for it. As he journeyed down the block, a neighborhood dog saw this giant red intruder and went wild, chasing after him and barking like mad. People came out of their houses to see what the commotion was about, and just saw a giant Santa leading a parade with a canine grand marshal. Instead of trying to stop it, everyone just started cheering and laughing. It was the most unexpected and hilarious Christmas parade anyone had ever seen. Santa finally came to a rest in a neighbor's yard, looking like he'd just finished a marathon. It just goes to show, sometimes you can't contain the Christmas spirit. Number 36. We have a story that combines two of the best things in the world, puppies and surprises. What could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot apparently. Picture this. A person is so excited to give their partner the ultimate Christmas gift, an adorable, fluffy little puppy. They carefully place the puppy inside a big gift-wrapped box, complete with a bow. The plan is perfect. They'll bring the box into the living room. Their partner will open it, and pure joy will erupt. It's the reality. The puppy, being a puppy, couldn't quite hold it. By the time the big reveal happened, the little guy had peed all over the inside of the box, which then soaked through and onto the brand new carpet. To top it all off, as the partner excitedly lifted the lid, a final, perfectly timed stream of puppy pee got them right on the sweater. They got their puppy, but they also got a professional carpet cleaning bill for Christmas. Happy holidays, I guess. No. Next on our list is a classic case of don't try this at home. You've seen it in a dozen Christmas movies. The fun-loving character grabs a mattress, a sled, or a baking sheet and heroically slides down a staircase, landing perfectly at the bottom to everyone's applause. One guy decided this was his year to become that movie hero. He hauled a mattress to the top of his parents' staircase, took a running start, and launched himself into what he hoped would be a glorious descent. Instead of a smooth slide, the mattress immediately veered sideways, sending him crashing directly into the wooden balusters of the railing. There was a loud crack, not of applause, but of splintering wood. He didn't just break the railing, he nearly broke a rib. He ended up tangled in the busted spindles covered in dust with the mattress on top of him. His family found him wheezing. It looked easier in the movie. Yeah, it always does. No epic slide, just an awkward call to a carpenter. Our next story involves a very bad idea, a plastic Santa, and the local authorities. Someone thought it would be a fantastic idea for a viral video to tape a firecracker to a cheap plastic Santa decoration. You know the kind? The cheerful, hollow ones you stick in your front yard? The plan was to light the fuse, get a funny clip of Santa making a little pop, and get a few laughs online. But they might have slightly misjudged the power of the firecracker. When they lit the fuse, it wasn't a little pop. It was a full-blown explosion. The plastic Santa didn't just pop, he vaporized into a million tiny red and white plastic shards that rained down all over the lawn. The boom was so loud that the next-door neighbor, who was peacefully decorating her own tree, let out a blood-curdling scream, thinking a bomb had gone off. Within minutes, Sirens were wailing, and a police car pulled up, lights flashing. The would-be video creator had to explain to two very unimpressed officers that they had in fact just blown up Santa Claus for clout. They didn't get a viral video, but they did get a stern warning and a very, very angry neighbor. Moving on, let's talk about the silent but deadly danger of holiday decorations. We all love a bit of sparkle, but this next story proves that tinsel can be treacherous. An aunt was helping decorate the family home, and a long, shimmering piece of silver tinsel fell onto the polished hardwood floor. No one noticed it. It just lay there, looking festive and innocent.
Later that evening,
The aunt was walking through the living room, socks on, full of Christmas cheer. She stepped directly onto the 2-foot strip of sparkly doom. As it turns out, tinsel on a slick hardwood floor has the same friction coefficient as an Olympic ice rink. Her feet went out from under her instantly. She didn't just slip, she went airborne for a split second before crashing down. The result? A broken toe? She spent the rest of her Christmas Eve in the emergency room, explaining to a doctor that she was taken down by a piece of tinsel. She now refers to it as the tinsel trap and has banned it from all future family gatherings. Finally, we have a story that is both funny in hindsight and absolutely terrifying. It's the near-death ornament incident. The holidays are a time for beautiful, delicate glass ornaments. They sparkle on the tree and look magical, but they are essentially pretty little glass traps waiting to happen. Someone was decorating their tree when a particularly beautiful, fragile glass ball slipped from their fingers. It hit the floor and shattered into dozens of razor-sharp pieces. In a moment of panic, they took a step back, right onto one of the largest, most jagged shards. It went deep into their foot. When they pulled it out, blood started pouring everywhere. It was a Christmas horror movie scene. They wrapped it up and rushed to the hospital. The doctor who treated them said the shard had missed a major artery in their foot by mere centimeters. If it had been just slightly to the left, the situation would have been catastrophically worse. The person who lived to tell the tale now describes it as the most festive near-death moment of my life. They now only buy shatterproof ornaments. A wise choice. So there you have it. 40 stories of Christmas plans going horribly, hilariously wrong. From puppy presents to exploding Santas, it just goes to show that the most memorable holiday moments are often the ones you never could have planned for. What are some of your funniest holiday disaster stories? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read them. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and have a safe and happy holiday season. See you next time.